A world where only what you want matters. I was in a great mood. I had just acquired a business I had long been involved in, and it had taken some effort. Some of the things I had done were sneaky, devious, and bordering on illegal, but I was getting away with it. That should impress Dad. The next day when I got to the office, I was still high, and as I walked into my office, my dad told me how the day had gone. This wasn't unusual until I received an email from my attorney asking me to contact him immediately with an attachment. My curiosity got the better of me, and I opened it. It's official! Hell has starved! Today, the town of Hell, Idaho, is completely covered with ice. A massive ice storm hit the area last night, and everything is covered in a thick layer of ice. The streets can only be traveled by large four-wheel drive vehicles with secure chains, and the mayor has declared a state of emergency. Until further notice, only police or emergency vehicles are allowed on the streets, and if you need emergency assistance, please call the hotline we have set up. Emergency shelters have been set up at local schools, and anyone needing shelter should call the police department. The predicted highs for the next few days are around 20 degrees, and temperatures could drop to freezing at night, so there won't be a thaw for at least a week. Stay tuned for further instructions. I called Ben. I read the article. Should we make a donation to a charity? That's always a good idea, public relations-wise, but that's not why I sent it. Remember your divorce? Wow, that brought back memories. That asshole had the nerve to cheat on me. He didn't seem to care about getting caught, and he didn't try to hide it. We didn't get along, and looking back, I realize I spent too much time in the office and not enough time married, but that doesn't excuse cheating. I became a scorched earth after the divorce, and surprisingly, given my value, he didn't particularly try to fight it. I ended up giving him the house, his cars, half of my checks and savings at the time, and he didn't get part of my trust fund. We had old money, and we were struggling to maximize it, so that was significant. Because of the prenup with the adultery clause, he could only get 10%, but it was still a lot of millions. The only thing he asked for was to let him talk to me for an hour, but I was so angry I resisted as much as I could. I finally handed his lawyer a notarized contract stating that I would talk to him when hell freezes over and not a minute before. Eventually, he stopped trying, but kept the paperwork. Now, 5 years later, it seems like it's come back to bite me in the ass. Really? He knows it's not legally enforceable and that I never said anything about a physical location. Anyone with a modicum of common sense would realize that, but the fact that you didn't specify which hell, even though you were speaking metaphorically, negates that assumption. He's got a pretty good lawyer, and he's pushing his case. His lawyer told me it would be in your best interest to talk to him, saying he could put you in a very awkward position if you refused. It's been 5 years and he's done with it. What can he do? Well, for starters, he can sue you for breach of contract. He may or may not win, but your name will be all over the news for days. The media will love it. The paparazzi will hound you to death, not to mention what the mainstream media will do. There are plenty of news services that don't really like your father. Do you think they're going to pass up a great opportunity like this? They'll be so deep up your company's ass that you'll feel them at your throat. I thought about it for a minute. We weren't very popular right now, and it could hurt business. Throw him a couple million, Ben, and make it stop. He sighed. Okay, but you have to remember that money doesn't seem to matter much to him. He could take a much tougher stance during the divorce, and you'd end up having to pay him a lot more than you've been paying him. Try this. Okay, you're paying me, but you're also paying for my advice, and I'm telling you that things may not go the way you think. Bye, Jasmine. Bye, Uncle Ben. Tell Alice I'm expecting her next month for a shopping trip. He grinned, but it was a dry chuckle. Shopping isn't really the right word. I think she spends half our annual income on those trips. Well, then it's a damn good thing you're a tough lawyer and worth millions. Give me the good news. I'll talk to you soon, Pumpkin. Have fun on your trip. He's suing for breach of contract. $50 million. Normally I'd laugh it off, but he hired Aubrey Melton. If you need a shark, I'm good enough. If you need a megalodon, you hire her. It can get very unpleasant and very quickly. I didn't get it right away. What the hell are you talking about, Uncle Ben? Your ex. He filed a lawsuit in the local jurisdiction. You're gonna have to go down there and plead your case. Not that I'm gonna praise that crap, but where is that? North Carolina? I exhaled noisily. The land of tobacco and cousin love? No way in hell. He was quiet for a minute. I hate to bring this up, but you don't have a choice. I can fight it, delay it as long as I can. But sooner or later, we're going to run into some old-school judge, Foghorn Livorno, and then it's going to get real bad. Who's Foghorn Livorno? Another long silence followed. God, I'm getting old. Never mind, sweetheart. The point is, you're going to have to become a woman. Put on your big girl panties and talk to him. I giggled. Big girl panties? You're really getting old. Delay this as long as possible and he might just give up. The likelihood of that happening is about the same as if I suddenly grew thick hair after 40 years of baldness. He waited 5 years before he caught you on a technicality. Do you really think he's going to give up? I knew my ex, or at least I thought I did. What I remembered most about him was his stubbornness, especially if he thought he was right. With that in mind, I made a decision. Mess with him for another 3 months and then settle it. That didn't happen. Eventually, he contacted an old-school judge who, he said, told Ben, "Make sure she knows I'm not screwing around anymore. If her ass isn't in this spot in 3 weeks, I'll issue a court order for failure to appear and get her extradited. Make sure she understands, counselor." I stonewalled and canceled the court date. 2 days later, a confused police officer came to the office and gave me a choice. I could go voluntarily, or he would handcuff me and escort me out of the building like a criminal. I had my assistant call Ben and got into his car. He apologized 10 times because my company was an important person in this town, and finally I advised him to relax. "I understand, it's your job. You did a very fair thing to me, and I hold no grudge against you." He even held the doors open for me as we entered the city jail. They didn't lock me up. They put me in their best interrogation room and offered me all sorts of treats. Ben showed up 20 minutes later looking grim. "Thank God," I said as I stood up. "Let's get my things together and get out of here." He looked at me for only a minute, and the expression on his face spoke for itself. "Would you sit down, dear? We're going to be here for a while. You've failed to appear in court, and they're demanding your extradition. It usually takes 3 or 4 days for any jurisdiction to get you to show up, sometimes a week. They usually don't let people in your situation go free until the trial. After all, if you were already supposed to show up but didn't, there's a good chance you won't show up again." I was starting to panic. Damn my stubborn ex-husband. He never gives up, especially when he thinks it's the right thing to do. "Set a date and bring him here." He shook his head. 9 months ago, that might have worked. Now it won't work. You've pissed off the wrong people. People in the countryside who have never heard of you and don't care about your wealth. This time, Mountain, you must go to Muhammad at his convenience. You are to appear before the judge tomorrow for arraignment, and you had better try to elicit his sympathy and make promises you can keep when you speak to him. I'm sure I can get you released, but it's going to cost a lot. Have you told your father what's going on? I shrank back, remembering that conversation. My father hated my husband while we were together, mostly because the family didn't impress him enough and made it clear that he didn't care what he thought. He once told him that he would have been a fool to implement plans to buy a competitor company he was involved with, and Dad bought it out of spite. It turned out to be the worst decision of his career and cost him dearly. Eric never said anything, but he smirked every time it was on the news or in the papers, which eventually pissed me off. It didn't seem to bother him as much as I thought it would, and it made me rethink the whole dynamic of our relationship. It was really, really hard for me not to be dominant in any relationship, and while he didn't bully me, he made it damn clear to me that we had a partnership, and if I didn't feel the same way, I should take steps to dissolve it. It scared the hell out of me because I really loved him, right up until the moment I found out he cheated on me. It's funny how quickly I went from loving wife to furious woman, but it just hit me that he had the nerve to cheat on me. I was great, built like a Greek goddess with amazing brains, and my face may not have launched ships, but it managed to hurt a few noses when guys bumped into doors and walls. Plus, the woman he was cheating with, despite having a very beautiful body, looked mediocre at best. I gave him everything, not excluding anything sexual, and I insisted that we make love at least 4 times a week. Of course, it was kind of built into my schedule, and it irritated him beyond belief that when he started it, I stopped him 4 times out of 5. I did this firstly because my busy schedule meant I had to manage my time carefully, and secondly, to confirm who had the upper hand in our relationship. Sometimes I wondered if because I was constantly in control of our lives, he threw himself into the arms of another, but she was a nobody. She had no money, no prospects, nothing, but he still gave up his marriage for her. What I find even stranger is that after the divorce, he didn't pursue her anymore. Instead, he sold the house and disappeared for about 4 months. He went back to work, taking a position at a new startup located in the Research Triangle, and started doing who knows what. It must have been successful because he and his partners were written about in a regional magazine for their successes. Not that I followed him. I heard that a couple years later he remarried. I thought about sending her our divorce papers and maybe a couple pictures, but decided to leave it at that. Besides, I was engaged to a nice young man of whom my father heartily approved. He idolized the ground I walked on and had absolutely no character. It was a marriage made in heaven. That night I stayed at the police headquarters and one of the policemen brought in some thick quilted blankets and soft pillows. The door was unlocked and I was given a laptop in case I wanted to work. I was even given an interview room as an office. The next morning I graciously thanked them for their kindness and donated $10,000 to their summer sports program. I appeared before the judge, and while he was kind, he made it clear to me that I had to honor the contract, or I would be back in jail, in the county court of common pleas, until he saw fit to let me go free. You have a week to decide that, or you're going back in there. Understand? Ben assured him wholeheartedly that I would comply, and just in case, he made me post a $250,000 cash bond, which I would immediately forfeit if I didn't comply. I trembled as we left the courtroom and Uncle Ben kissed me and told me to be sure to come to this meeting. You don't even have to be polite to him, but you will have to spend an hour talking to him. Try to act casual and keep the altercations to a minimum. Don't make me follow you to the sunny south. I boarded the company's smallest airplane and arrived at the Raleigh airport at 9 in the morning, which was too late for a Saturday. I had my personal assistant, makeup artist, and personal hairdresser with me to remind him of what he was missing. It was an hour-and-a-half drive to his house, and I was terribly annoyed at having to drive to him. I tried to book a small conference room at one of the local conference centers, but he flatly refused, and the judge agreed. It took him over 5 years and the will of God and nature to get you here, so we'll do it his way. At least I enjoyed the trip. I made sure I had a Mustang convertible, and if it weren't for the mussed-up hair, I would have kept the top on the whole way, maybe on the way back. After 40 minutes, the city streets changed to countryside, and for the most part, it was farmland and wooded hills. It was very pastoral and soothing, and I involuntarily compared it to my apartment on the 25th floor, at the very top. Yes, the views were spectacular, but you were so far above everything else that it was like looking out of an airplane. The navigator pointed me to a long and winding driveway that ended at a large house, old-looking, with a huge front and back porch. I was surprised to find that it was quite modern, even though it was barely 4 years old. When I walked out, no one greeted me, and the first thing I noticed was the smell. It was clean, smelled like flowers and plants in the beds by the porch, and it reminded me of my grandmother's house when I was 5 or 6 years old. I didn't actually have an appointment. It was just an afternoon appointment, so I wasn't surprised when no one met me at the door. I was about to call again when I heard voices and 2 people came out from around the corner of the house. One of them was a girl, about 13 or 14 years old. I'd never socialized with kids except at company picnics or the Christmas parties for kids we throw every year, so I had no reason to judge. I could tell she was pretty, past the clumsy puppy stage and beginning to form a woman's body, with big green eyes and blonde hair so light it seemed almost white. What shocked me was her companion. It was Shane, and he was wearing overalls. He was always dressed immaculately, either in starched jeans and a pullover or a designer suit tailored to his liking. I wonder if he'd become a farmer now. He and the girl stopped and stared at each other for a second. Then he smirked. "Ah, there you are." I stared at him, feeling a storm of emotion. "Not because I want to. That was pretty mean-spirited of you, Shane. Can we please get this over with so I can go back to my life and forget you ever existed?" His smile didn't waver, and I suddenly remembered how cold-blooded he could be in times of need. Of course. Then he looked at the girl. "Missy, would you get us a couple cups of iced tea? I think we'll sit out on the veranda and get some fresh breeze." Yes, Daddy. Daddy? When the hell did this happen? He noticed my confusion and smiled. I got the bonus package when I got married the second time. Please have a seat. By then, he had already made his way up to the porch and pointed to the upholstered wicker furniture. It was surprisingly comfortable. The girl came out with a tray. Cookies? She smiled. I baked them myself. She hugged Shane and started down the stairs, throwing over her shoulder that she was going to the barn. Then she stopped and looked me in the eye. I'm sorry about Grandma Laurel. I loved her very much. Laurel was my mom's name. I stared at Shane. What was that? His gaze became intense, and I realized I'd hit a nerve. You have no right to talk about it unless it's an emergency. Shall we start? He made a big show of setting a timer on his phone. Did you ever love me? Or did you like the thought of me, a faithful and devoted husband, always there for your events, whom you can boss around with impunity? What the hell? Of course I loved you. That's why it made me so angry when you cheated on me. You knew it was a deal breaker. I couldn't let you get away with it. I wasn't trying to avoid anything. It was pretty easy to spread the news to make sure it got to you. I thought my heart was about to burst from the tension. Did you do it on purpose? Asshole, did I mean so little to you? He looked incredibly sad for a second before a slight smile reappeared on his face. You meant the world to me throughout our marriage, right up until the last few months. Did you ever know this woman's name? Claire Houston. I will never forget that woman's name. And that name didn't mean anything to you? No. Why the hell not? Let me back up for a second. How about Nelson Houston? Does that ring a bell? Tall, blonde, good-looking, and, according to you, able to make love like a robot? He was her husband. Suddenly, my ears were ringing. No one knew, and we were being extremely discreet. I came to my senses and took the insult, even though I knew I was going to lose. What the hell are you talking about? That name is unfamiliar to me. He reached across the desk and pulled out a folder. Leafing through, he found what he was looking for, then looked at me and smirked. Maybe that expression, used monkey, will jog your memory. I have a recording of you calling him that, and I can play it back for you if you give me a second. Tears flowed from my eyes. No one was supposed to know. I thought we'd covered our tracks well. I sighed. I take it she was his wife? Yes, and I'd still be a blind fool in love with you if she hadn't approached me. You were very slick, but he wasn't. He bragged about sleeping with you as if it would improve his reputation among his business associates. No one believed him at first, so he took pictures. There's probably a video of you with him still hanging somewhere on the internet. It might be worth asking Uncle Ben to take a look at it. It clearly shows your face. Again, I have a copy if you want to relive it. It wasn't that I fainted, but I blacked out for a few seconds. When I was able to focus, I saw the look on his face. He didn't look triumphant or happy. In fact, he looked genuinely depressed. Then he shook himself, and despite my brain screaming at me not to, I started babbling. It's not what you think. I never meant to hurt you, and I tried my best to keep it away from us. It was only once or twice, and then I came to my senses. I almost confessed because the guilt was so strong, but even though I knew you would forgive me, I didn't want to be the cause of your pain. He looked into the folder again. If the reports are to be believed, it took at least 9 months, and I used your money to get the best of it. And yet, even though you knew I would forgive you, you didn't show me the same courtesy when my affair was revealed. He wasn't supposed to know. Never. Then he pulled out another folder and looked through it. You started seeing him less than 3 months after you broke up with Charles Goodnight. He claimed to be a direct descendant of the legendary cowboy. Even wore that stupid cowboy hat everywhere. What was your favorite pose of his? Cowboy? How did this novel end? It's a little vague at the end, and I realized I didn't have time to find out. I felt weak. How much did he know? He opened another folder. You slept with Yoshi Yamato the entire time you were in Japan, making a deal for your father's company. It took international relations to a whole new level. Before that, it was Barclay Hughes, but it was the first time since we got married, so I asked investigators to stop looking. No one knows how many people you slept with while we were dating. I finally got my spark back. So you brought me here just to rub my nose in my business? Maybe you were hoping we could make up? His face changed, and he looked like he was about to throw up. Honestly, I don't think that will ever happen, even if hell freezes over again. No, right now I just feel sorry for you. You've never had a real relationship with anyone except maybe your father. You've never known true love between a man and his wife. Frankly, I don't think you're capable of it. You lied to me, Jasmine, the whole time we were together and kept telling me everything was fine. In fact, I put a Johnny Lang song on my ringtone when your number came up just to remind myself. No, it's a clumsy attempt on my part to intervene, to maybe, just maybe, for the first time see yourself for who you are. I don't think it will work, but I made a promise to try. He paused, and just as I was about to speak, he spoke again. I think you're engaged again to the man you ruthlessly control. Are you still bullying him, or have you trained him enough that he doesn't care? These are words to ponder. Every man has a limit, though sometimes it takes decades to reach it. Sooner or later, he'll get bored and leave you in the lurch, not caring if he gets your money or not. Remember that even rabbits will kick and scratch with their claws when they find themselves in a trap from which there is no other way out. His words suddenly hit me hard, but I pulled myself together. Well, then you can forget about your promise to yourself. You've talked to me. You've given me your opinion of me. You've given me advice that you know I won't follow. Can I go now? He looked at his phone and sighed. You still owe me 8 minutes, but you're right, we're done. I'd advise you to be better, but that would be a waste of time. Go back to your world, where only what you want matters, and enjoy it. He stood up, sliding the folders toward me. Here, you can have these. I saved them just so you'd know I'm not quite who you thought I was. There's one more thing. That promise wasn't made to me. It was made to someone who meant the world to me. I would have given up on you a long time ago, thinking you were hopeless. If it weren't for that, I'd be more than happy to forget you ever existed. To whom, then, was the promise made? His gaze turned cold. Time is up. You can go now. He turned and went into the house, leaving me on the porch. It took me a few minutes to come to my senses. Then I stood up, grabbed my folders off the table, and headed for my car. I was halfway down the highway when I saw a young girl riding a horse in the pasture who looked familiar. I stopped and waited, and she ran up to me. She just sat there, and I finally broke the silence. This horse seemed familiar. She smiled, immersed in her thoughts. It should be. Sir Dancing Horse was your mother's last horse, and she sent him here 5 months before she died because she wanted me to have him. How did you know? She jerked the reins, and the silver Arabian horse responded, galloping away instantly. She shouted goodbye, "Don't come back!" And then she was gone. I watched her receding figure for a second before returning to my car. Later on the airplane, I was unusually quiet, and my surroundings left me alone, immersed in my thoughts. My mom loved Shane and was heartbroken when it was discovered that he had been cheating on me. She was very angry with him during the divorce, but for a while after the divorce, she just stopped talking about him, except to express sadness at the lack of grandchildren. And now I find out that she gave the horse to his supposed stepdaughter. The more I pondered this, the more I felt I needed to know. When I got home, I discovered that I didn't have his email address, but it was pretty easy to find it at his office, so I sent him a message that we needed to talk again. His attorney sent me a message saying that his client had agreed to the same terms as last time. What exactly does that mean? Ben smiled sadly. It means, honey, that you have to wait until hell freezes over again, and the end.